My landlord slid a printed photo across my kitchen table and asked me why there was a camera pointed at the building. It was a screenshot of my living room window from outside, zoomed in so tight you could count the dust on the sill. Then he said, like he was being generous, "We don't need to get the police involved if you just tell me the truth." I stood there in socks, half a banana in my hand, trying to figure out what crime he thought I'd committed with a window. I'd been renting the same one-bedroom for a year in a quiet 4-unit building. I'm not loud, I work hybrid for a healthcare billing company, and my biggest vice is forgetting wet laundry in the washer. My landlord, Greg, was a friendly older guy who loved rules. He'd text reminders about trash day like it was a federal holiday. Still, he'd been mostly hands-off. That changed when he announced routine quarterly inspections. He framed it like a safety thing: smoke detectors, leaks, filters. It sounded annoying but normal. The first inspection was just weird, not alarming. Greg came with a clipboard and those thin blue shoe covers like he was entering a lab. He checked the smoke detector, then lingered. He asked what hours I worked, whether I had company often, and if I'd noticed any unusual behavior from the neighbors. He said it casually, but he kept looking around, like he was mentally inventorying my stuff. Then he drifted into my bedroom without asking. Not snooping through drawers, but doing that slow scan people do when they're evaluating a hotel room. He paused at my bookshelf and asked, "You into true crime?" I laughed awkwardly because I'm a grown adult and didn't want to start a feud over vibes. When he left, I told myself he was just nosy. The second inspection was worse because I wasn't there. Greg texted that he needed to check a possible moisture issue, and asked if he could use his key while I was at work. I didn't love it, but my lease allowed entry with notice. I said yes, then spent the rest of the day feeling like I'd agreed to be robbed politely. When I got home, nothing looked disturbed. But the shower curtain was pulled open, which I never do, and my bathroom fan was running. I turned it off and noticed the towel I'd used that morning had been moved from the hook to the counter. Again, not proof of anything, but it made my skin prickle. 2 days later, my downstairs neighbor Maya stopped me in the hallway. She's friendly in a careful way, like she's always collecting data. "Hey," she said, "did Greg do your inspection already?" "Yeah," I said. "Why?" She hesitated. He was here when you weren't. I saw him let himself in and then he came out with his phone up, like he was recording. I thought maybe you asked him to film something?" I said I hadn't. Maya gave me this look like she didn't want to be dramatic but also didn't want to be the only one who noticed. That night I set up an old laptop on my desk with the webcam facing the front door. I didn't tell anyone. I felt silly doing it, like I was auditioning for a paranoia documentary. I just wanted to stop feeling crazy. A week passed. Then Greg texted me at 9:12 a.m. on a Tuesday. "Need to swing by. Tenant complaint re. Odors. Standard follow-up. I'll be there at 10. Odors. Great. Nothing makes you feel like a villain faster than someone implying you smell." I told my manager I had to step out for a maintenance thing and rushed home. Greg was already there, standing in the hallway outside my unit with 2 other tenants, Maya and the guy across the hall, Eric. Like we were about to have a group intervention. Greg smiled too widely. "Perfect timing," he said. He turned to them. "Just so everyone feels comfortable, I'm going to do a quick walkthrough." It hit me then. This wasn't about a filter. This was theater. He walked in like he owned my embarrassment. He opened my fridge, glanced inside, and made a little hum like a disappointed parent. He leaned down near the baseboards and sniffed. "I'm not smelling anything," Maya said, sounding annoyed. Greg ignored her and pointed at my window. "There, that's the issue." I looked. On my windowsill was a small black device, one of those cheap motion-activated security cams I'd bought months ago for my bike, still in the box because I never got around to installing it. I'd left it there temporarily when I was clearing clutter. Greg's tone sharpened. A camera pointed at the building, recording comings and goings. "It's not even on," I said, cheeks burning. "It's not set up." Eric shifted, suddenly very interested in my doormat. Greg pulled out his phone and held up that zoomed-in photo of my window like he was presenting evidence in court. "Doesn't matter. It's intimidating. People feel watched." Maya's eyebrows shot up. "People? Who?" Greg's jaw tightened. "I've received complaints. I'm addressing them." I wanted to scream that it wasn't pointed at anyone, it wasn't running, and also, Why was he photographing my window in the first place? But I could feel the social trap. If I got angry, I'd be defensive. If I stayed calm, he'd keep pushing. So I did the only thing I could think of. I said, okay. If you're worried about recording, I actually have my own recording. Greg froze. What? I walked to my desk, opened the laptop, and played the file from the webcam. The video showed my front door from inside. You could hear the hallway faintly. At 10:07 a.m. the day of the moisture issue, Greg unlocked my door and stepped in. He didn't call out. He didn't go to the bathroom. He walked straight to my living room window. Then he held his phone up and slowly panned it across my living room. Not the ceiling, not the floor, my couch, my coffee table, my bookshelf, my desk. He zoomed in on the pile of mail on my counter like he was checking for a name. He lingered on my bedroom doorway. Then, this is the part that made my throat go dry watching it again, he opened my hall closet. It wasn't a long rummage. He looked at the boxes and shut it, like he was confirming something. Behind me, Maya inhaled sharply. Eric muttered, dude. Greg's face did this subtle recalculation, like a cashier realizing they just rang up the wrong customer. That's not what it looks like, he said quickly. I was documenting the condition of the unit. Standard practice. Standard practice to film my mail? I asked. He lifted his hands. You're misunderstanding. Maya stepped closer to the laptop, eyes narrowed. Greg, why didn't you say you were filming? And why are you even in the closet? Greg's voice took on that landlord firmness. I'm allowed to enter with notice. This is my property. And there it was. Not an explanation, an assertion. I could feel the room tipping. Either I backed down and accepted that my home was a stage for his little power trips, or I pushed and risked being labeled the difficult tenant who records people. I swallowed and said, I'd like your insurance and maintenance company info. If there's really a moisture issue, I want it documented by an actual professional. Greg blinked. Why? Because you're saying there are complaints and hazards, I said, steadying my voice. That affects my tenancy. I want everything in writing. That phrase, everything in writing, changed him. You could almost see him imagining a paper trail. He stared at the paused frame of himself standing in my doorway with my key. Fine, he said tightly. I'll send you the details. After he left, Maya stayed in my kitchen while I tried not to shake. Eric mumbled something about wild and escaped back to his unit. Maya lowered her voice. You should know? Greg asked me last week if I'd seen you bringing in strange equipment. I thought he meant like tools. She looked genuinely embarrassed. He was fishing. I didn't realize. In hindsight, the true crime comment, the questions about my schedule, the sudden complaints, it wasn't random nosiness. He was building a story where I was the suspicious one. The next day I emailed Greg summarizing what happened, attached a screenshot of the video timestamp, and requested that all future inspections be scheduled when I'm present. I copied the property management email listed on my lease, an address I'd never used because Greg always acted like he was the whole operation. Within 2 hours, I got a reply from someone named Denise at an actual management company. She sounded alarmed in that carefully professional way. Greg is not authorized to conduct inspections alone, she wrote. We have received prior concerns about his entry practices. Please keep documentation. We will be assigning a different representative going forward. Prior concerns. So I wasn't the first. A week later, Denise and a maintenance guy came for a real inspection. They checked the smoke detector, peeked under the sink, replaced the HVAC filter, and left in under 10 minutes. No sniffing baseboards. No questions about my social life. Greg stopped texting me trash day reminders. The best part, if you can call it that, came a month later when a notice appeared in the lobby. All inspections will be performed by management staff. Unauthorized entry by any party should be reported immediately. It was written in bland corporate font, but it felt like a public slap. I never got an apology. Greg avoided me like I was contagious. I found out through Maya that he'd told another tenant I was difficult and paranoid. But the tone in the building had shifted. People stopped laughing politely at his rude speeches. They started locking their deadbolts even when they were home. I ended up moving when my lease was up, partly because I could afford it and partly because I couldn't unknow what it felt like to realize someone had been alone in my space, filming it, then trying to make me the problem. The irony still sticks with me. He accused me of spying with a camera that wasn't even turned on, because he needed a reason to justify the fact that he already was.